preparation for their upcoming season continued as normal, even as the GW women's basketball team knew of a big change. Junior guard Kai Allums was born a female, but at a press conference Wednesday afternoon, he told reporters about coming out as a transgender male, making him the first openly transgender Division I athlete.
Well, first of all, I just want to say, yes, I am a male on females team, and I want to be clear about that. I'm a transgender male, which means, like, feeling-wise, like how I feel on the inside. I feel as if I should have been born male with male parts, but I am, my biological sex is female, which makes me a transgender male.
Kai has decided to live as a male student and be referred to as a male. George Washington University supports Kai and his right to make this decision. Kai has informed the university that he will not begin any medical or drug protocol while a student athlete.
For Allums, coming out as transgender resulted not from outside pressure, but from a need to be himself.
I wasn't being me, and like I'm a talkative person. Like I could talk for days, but I wouldn't talk to my teammates. I wasn't talking to my friends. I wasn't texting people. People were like, what's wrong with you? And I wasn't being me. And but by saying something, I was like, okay. I was like, now I can go back to just be me and focus, and that was that.
I would treat them the exact same way I treat any of my players. Now, some of my players might say that I treat them like dirt, but all seriousness, it wouldn't make any difference to me. He's a human being, a basketball player, a student athlete. You're here to go to school to play basketball. Your personal life is, that's something that's entirely up to you, so it wouldn't make any difference to me. To be honest with you, I don't know what the rules here at Merrimack College are specifically, so that's something that I'm assuming the athletic director or our compliance people would know more about.
So Kai Allums was the first Division I basketball player to play an NCAA college sport in 2010. When he played for George Washington, Kai was born female, but then became a male later on in his life, receiving hormone therapy, and then he stopped playing due to controversy.
I had never heard about that, which is kind of surprising because I usually, read either papers on the NCAA news or stuff like that. If it was here at Merrimack College and he was on my team, I would make sure that I have counselors come over so that they would be involved. I would sit down with the team probably in the gym, because that's their home. And I think sit down and just go, we're going to talk about this. What I don't want is this young person to feel isolated. He's part of our family, and let's deal with this. So let's everybody speak up. But I don't have a doctorate in psychology, so I would definitely want to have a counselor there with me to kind of guide us through.
I currently do not know of any transgender athletes here at Merrimack College or at any of the institutions that I have worked at, but I think that we strive to treat all athletes the same and want to provide an equal opportunity to all athletes that are here academically. It's all about having a good student-athlete experience at college. We are starting to implement new policies as we just have a new athletic director that's in his second year here. But the NCAA does have some mandates for transgender athletes that I do know about. So trans males are allowed to compete on a male's team whether they're taking testosterone treatments or not, and it doesn't change the status of that team as a male team. Whereas trans females, if they are to compete They can only compete on a female team when they're taking testosterone for a full year, which they also need to have medical exemptions based on NCAA drug testing standards and some standards that are within the NCAA. I had not heard of this athlete in particular, but I have heard of other collegiate athletes, and I think the struggle becomes on a team is, making sure that they're comfortable and identifying the transgender athlete in a manner that allows them to be successful within the team and supportive within the team and staff. As an athletic trainer, we're support staff, we're the healthcare professionals that work directly with the student athletes, so I think it's a little bit different than being a coach, but being that support system. He wanted to receive testosterone treatment, and a struggle with him on the team was that the pronouns that he kept being referred to as Miss Alums, and it was just kind of a struggle for him, and that's why he kind of chose to leave collegiate athletics, which is a difficult thing, and it's up and coming, and there's a lot more transgender athletes. So here at Merrimack, we are aware that could be a possibility in the coming years, and it's something that we do need to be ready for, and allow our student athletes to have the best possible experience that they can. That awareness, just having awareness not only about what transgender means, and not only just for us as a staff, but again for all of our student athletes, so that if we do have a transgender student athlete who comes to Merrimack, everyone can understand and be all-encompassing and be accepting of these student athletes, so that they can have a positive experience.
I think first of all you try to treat anyone with compassion, and if we had a transgender student on campus here, if we had a transgender student that wanted to be a student athlete, we'd take that same approach. So one of the overarching guidelines in the NCAA and any school that participates in the NCAA is that it's one of our objectives to protect the health and welfare of any student athlete, and so that's really what we'd be focused on, to make sure that like any other man or woman participating in athletics, that they have a great experience. So the NCAA has policies for everything, which includes transgender athletes, and a lot of the policies that they have are based around whether the transition for the individual is from female to male, male to female, whether there are hormones involved that the person is receiving, and so that relates to whether they're eligible to play and whether they can be on a men's team or be on a women's team. And so there are guidelines that we would follow from that standpoint. A lot of the other things that the NCAA has put out are really about the experience and the student athlete welfare, to make sure that accommodations are appropriate, to make sure that people have the appropriate training to be able to deal the right way with these things, ranging from folks who might be involved with media. If it's a game that's being broadcast, what's the appropriate pronouns to be used? So there are really a lot of logistical things that go into it as well. But like I said, the NCAA absolutely has guidelines like they do for most other things. I am familiar with the situation, and it's challenging. I'll go back to the beginning and say how I'd hope I'd deal with it, and how I'd hope anyone in this department would deal with it would be with compassion. So, one of the things that I think is really special and great about athletics and college athletics is the diversity associated with it. So if you look out on a playing field or in any arena, you have black people, white people, gay, straight. They're all on the same team, and it's people working together to achieve a common goal. And that's fantastic, and we should celebrate that. And transgender student athletes is another component that gets added into the mix of diversity that hopefully we can celebrate. So there's a quote, and I'll probably... But really the point is that we should celebrate our differences. And we become better people when we are willing to accept the differences. It's not about tolerance, it's about acceptance. And that's the way that I would hopefully approach it if we had a student athlete in our programs. No, I think what it comes down to is treating people well and having just a common respect for others, regardless of what the differences may be. There's more commonality amongst us than there are differences. And again, going back to the point of making sure that from an athletic director's standpoint, that I take on the role of making sure that we have a department full of people who are educated and informed in a way that they understand the value of accepting diversity in the program.
I think that the way we treat all of our players here is if you can play, and for us it's important that of course you can help us on the basketball court, but then going far beyond that, making sure that you're a really committed student athlete and that you're a good person. We talk about just being a person of high character, and so I don't think other than those standards anything else would really matter to us and to our team, and we certainly try to create a culture and atmosphere of inclusion and appreciating differences, and that's I think what makes our team pretty neat and exciting and interesting is that we do have differences amongst the team. And so like I said, I think if someone could be a great teammate and a great citizen of Merrimack College, they would fit right in. I actually met Kai when he was here to speak a couple of years ago, and I knew of him in the recruiting process in basketball, and he was a great player. And I think that I'm sure, as Kai said when he spoke here, that there were just a lot of changes in terms of with the team dynamic, the media attention that came with it, and little things like coaches and teammates knowing which pronouns to use and things like that. So I think what it would require is just an open atmosphere to ask questions, and I think getting back to what I said about our team being very inclusive and respectful of one another is just having that that respect level and openness to go ahead and ask questions. And I think for myself as a coach, that would be my first time coaching a transgender athlete, and of course I would want to know what I could do to make it a smooth transition and make it a comfortable atmosphere for that student athlete. So I think just asking questions and asking people who probably know more than I do is the route that I would go.
Baby's black balloon makes her fly. I almost fell into that